10:02, we good back there? All right, opening the meeting of the Harwich Traffic Safety Committee, June 10th, 2025. This is our regular meeting in the Griffin Room. Call to order, we have a full committee here, that's great. Next on the agenda is the regular minutes of March 18th. And who is taking minutes today, Aaron? You're going to?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Quite
You're off the
fast.
hook, Aaron.
He's happy now, yeah.
He's happy, he's happiest I've seen him in years. All right, minutes, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right, any corrections or updates?
Negative.
None?
I'm good.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I don't have any announcements, unless anybody else does. Correspondence, under number 4, Cape Cod Vision Zero was released to the public, and they're in the comment phase. Just to let the public know that is available, they can get it onto the Cape Cod Commission website, and they should take a look at it. There were several hearings that were held around the Cape. We attended some of the working sessions. So any comments on it?
I have attended the first meeting. They wanted to put sidewalks and paving a road in West Harwich.
Bell's Neck.
I wasn't going to name the road. It seems like somehow a consulting group has been hired to look for federal funds, which I doubt will ever come through because of the current administration, but that's a different subject. So this, to me, is kind of a moot point that they don't know what they're talking about, and looking to improve roads that don't need improvement, and some of the roads that do need improvement, including Route 6 at 124, which we've been harping on for many years, aren't being touched.
Well,
Lincoln,
I think that the Cape Zero was specific to streets internal to a community, not trying to do Route 6, but it's what was within a community.
They did not include Route 6 in any of their.
No, Route
that
6 was
a
not
part
in
of-
any
that
of
was not-
theirs.
That was
Well-
not part of it.
So whether or not Route 6 needs improvements at certain points, the Cape Cod Vision Zero was really meant for towns, and there were places that were high, I guess they call it serious incident and fatalities, where there are things that could be done
Madam
to
Chair,
fix things.
I believe we all sat in on a couple of those working sessions.
Yep.
And we were less than impressed with the data that they were using, which was Mass DOT driven, and some of it was nonsensical. Some of it was valid. My perspective, after digging into some of it and reading the headline of Harwich's roads are the worst compared to neighboring towns, well, they were comparing us to Chatham and Brewster and Orleans, where we have more road miles than nearly those three towns combined. Compared to Dennis, we looked like we were rock stars. So the data just, didn't support the headlines that were made, in my opinion. The analysis didn't appear that deep, and it's all in pursuit of more grant money, which, I'm somewhat skeptical, along with Mr. Beltis.
I know that's something that disappoints me in some of these, not all, but some of these consultant reviews, like for traffic. They hit Google Earth, they see a road, and they say, oh, there can be sidewalks there. But they don't actually go to the road. They don't make a field trip as to what they're talking about. And so therefore, they come up with sidewalks on Bell's Neck.
I'm actually working on a project we might be talking about later, the Safe Routes
Yes.
to School. And all we are doing is basically removing and reinstalling a compliant sidewalk. Virtually no permanent takings. I cannot even begin, the town's responsible for the right-of-way. The amount of labor that I personally have spent on this amounts to probably 40 to 60 hours, and amidst other things, talking to people, convincing them of the merits of their easement, of which they're gonna be paid for. The resistance, I am amazed at, and we're talking about reconstructing an existing sidewalk. We're not taking anybody's property to do such. I've not had a good experience with constructing new sidewalks in this town. I've only constructed a couple, because when it comes, when it comes time, people do not realize how little property they actually own, and that becomes a problem. The hedge that you have, Jerry, you think is yours, actually is on town property, and when there's a project coming along, that hedge needs to go. And therefore, now I don't have Mr. Beltis as a supporter for that sidewalk.
Yep.
No, I'm not putting one in Harmar Heath.
No, and I don't have a hedge on the edge, but anyway, I don't mind being used as an example. There was some pushback on the sidewalk from the town center down to the harbor. There was one resident, I don't know what happened to that, but the result that they've done at the request of the town is wonderful. It doesn't look like it infringes much on anyone's layout of their landscape.
I think the utility company did a nice job of, because I know that there was some commentary of poles in front yards, and I think they did kind of a nice job of putting them at, the edge of the lot, in the bushes type of thing, so that they're not in somebody, are we gonna have a pole in the middle of my front yard? I think they did a pretty nice job, on the line.
DOT mandates that they move utility poles on any project to the property line, so the right-of-way line with the private property, and then they do their very best to put that down adjoining, abutting
Yeah.
property lines of private. So you're really at a triangle of where they try to situate the pole, to
And I
have
think
the
they did
least
it-
amount of impact.
And I think they did a pretty good job at it. I know they have a series of poles that are gonna need to be, the wires have to be moved and the pole taken out, because it's in the middle of the sidewalk, which I don't think is optimal.
So.
But that'll
using-
all happen.
Using Link's knowledge of where poles are set and going to right-of-way, if anybody has a question as to where their property are, if they just go out to their yard and look where the pole is, that's on the edge of their line in most places.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't make a blanket statement like that. I'm gonna say modern DOT projects require that. That was not always the case. Like, it's Queen Anne Road from 124 heading down towards Main Street, very narrow. Those poles are on the property line. But that might not be the case where you have a 40-foot layout or a 60-foot layout. Poles, usually they put them, 5 feet off the road or something like that. So it's not always the case out on 28. That is certainly the case with the Bodden project.
In my neighborhood, it is the case.
It's on the line.
Yes.
But I think
So
that,
this
but I think I would hesitate to make that statement before somebody goes out and says, oh, my property goes to here, and there's really another 5 feet of right-of-way. So just be careful with making a statement like that.
A lot of people don't understand what right-of-way is. It's the way that the road is laid out. Pavement is the road, but there's extra on the sides generally.
Yep.
And that's, people call it their property, but it's within the right-of-way and it's part of the town. So back to net zero, I'm sorry, we
Nope, I was gonna just say, rounding back to net zero, this is just, there's a discussion, we're having a discussion. Do we want to support it, not support it as a committee? I think there's some flaws in it, personally. I mean, I see that.
I'm in favor of any funding that we can get to improve the roads and sidewalks in Harwich. If
That's not coming out of this Cape Cod Vision Zero. It's, do you want to support the study? Do we want, as a committee, to support the study?
As I was saying, I'm in favor of any funding. If the study gives us some funding and we have input as to where it goes, then I would support it. If they're gonna give us money, spend it willy-nilly on what they think is needed, then I can't support it.
I know that's not the intention of the,
That's not
if you
the,
get the funding, it's to, if you get a bucket of the money, you can use it where, you know, you feel fit. And I've been on all the meetings, and to your point, all bells and that, the firm, there were a number of things when they talk about towns, they're in Boston, and they collected data from the crash forums, and they hadn't been to some of these places, so a lot of it had to be.
Yeah,
Did
some
they
of
even
them,
pull local data from the PD, do you know? It looked like that was all Mass DOT.
It's all Mass DOT, probably from the state crash. forums
Okay,
is where
that
they
was
got
it, state
from.
crash, yeah.
That's all I can assume. because
this
nobody
state
asked.
crash data includes crashes on Bell's Neck, which are probably,
So,
that
yeah, that was in the very,
that was
very,
just a comment to the,
yeah, I mean,
people
if you
that-
look past that, I mean, there may be an opportunity. I'm not saying that the study's perfect, but there may be an opportunity for money. I just don't know how we go, does the select board have to decide to
right, I
sign
mean,
on, or?
I mean, you have a study, because the question is, do we support the study or not? Going after more funding is looking for grants and everything else. The study may or may not help that. But yeah, that'd be the select board, it might be the town admin, might be Lincoln if he goes after something, police department. So they're not married together. The function of the study was to do the study as to areas where there could be improvements.
if we have, if there's a repercussion to not supporting the study, and the whole thing gets dropped for Harwich, and we lose out, then I would say we support the study. I don't know how to measure that.
I don't either.
Um,
Because I really don't think there would be the, that this isn't, Nixon 49, Massachusetts 1 environment.
This study, well-intended by the Cape Cod Commission.
Yeah.
I look at them and view them as a partner in most traffic-related issues. They've been very helpful. They've done one-off intersection studies and helped us with Pleasant Bay and 39. And did a intersection safety report on that. I don't think the consultant, I don't think the work product, how do I say this? I was not very impressed with the work product, which is not usually indicative of stuff that comes out of the commission, in my opinion. I do agree with Jerry that, I had a professor in grad school who said, don't be the first penguin off, don't be the last penguin off that ice floe. That we probably should support it to not shoot ourselves in the foot if there is tied to further funding opportunities. But we are, I think Colleen Maderas does fantastic work. Steve Tupper, fantastic work. This particular study, I was less than impressed with.
So the question remains, would we like to support it or not? Is there someone who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we support the study.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'll second the motion for further discussion's sake, I
Okay.
guess.
All right, so a motion on the floor by Jerry to support the study, seconded by Lincoln. Further discussion? What do we think?
What do we got to lose? If we
Yeah,
don't support it,
It doesn't tie our hands to,
Anything.
a lot of the work they did, they admit themselves, it's tied to, like, to fix some of these things is money. You can't just put, like Link did with Pleasant Bay Road, cut some trees and throw some paint down. So they understand that some of these changes are not gonna be solved by simply just saying, yes, we're on board. Some of the stuff is gonna cost some big dollars, like, to fix. There's no way you can fix some of these roads without engineering.
Yeah.
There isn't that kind of bucket of money out there, but if we can get something out of it, if it opens up some doors, then I think we definitely should support it and see where it goes.
And if there's the listing of things that can be done in Harwich specifically, you have that list, and if funding becomes available or grants become available, you write a grant and you say, I wonder if they would fund this. There's things that,
It could potentially
good.
be used.
Very useful.
As material, and you've got the commission support vetted in that as well. So,
all right, we ready for a vote? The motion on the floor is to support the Cape Cod Vision Zero report. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Can I resend my?
No.
Okay, that one.
You're out of line. Okay. Old Chatham Road and Route 39, how we doing?
Doing great. My staff and I reviewed, let's just say the 50% submittal, had a couple of minor changes. We are waiting for VHB to provide me 100% submittal. They've already done the scope, so I've got to contact the property owner and do a right of entry. We don't need any of her property in any permanent way. The only reason I need to deal with her, I forget her name, Miss Jagger. Contacting her to connect the two hedges. So her hedge comes out to a point. That point's getting rolled back probably 15 or 20 feet. It's town property. I'm gonna wanna connect the hedge on the property line. So to do that, I need to get a right of entry from her. I anticipate probably advertising the project this summer, construction fall.
One season construction?
I would certainly hope so. This is not Mass DOT.
Had to ask.
And you're not moving a telephone pole?
We are not. The poles are not in the way of realigning the intersection.
Did we ever hear back from the water department?
No, but I sent your concern for a second time to them and never heard anything back.
So we've done our due diligence.
I have.
Good
That question was, there was supposed to be some nexus of the water department wanting to
Yeah.
update their infrastructure. There really isn't enough with this very small intersection to warrant doing anything, in my opinion. But Jerry was concerned, so I sent another email to the water.
And I think, you're just making that question. You never know if something said, oh, yeah.
Well, typically, if we are resurfacing a road, we contact the gas company and the water department and say, do you have old service ties or old infrastructure you want to replace? So we're not digging up a new road down the line. So we try to coordinate that. In this instance, it has been coordinated. It doesn't appear there's anything to be done.
Well, that is good. So
Thank
we'll
you,
get,
Lick.
very
Welcome.
good, thank you. The sidewalks project, looks like it's reasonably complete at this point, but moving
Well-
telephone poles and,
Bridge.
and the bridge.
So let me state that I've done a bunch of these DOT tip projects, and we seriously hit a home run with the Mass DOT team, with the Lynch team. I couldn't have asked for a better team, better communication. The utilities, I've never seen them work as quickly or as diligently, authorize Saturday overtime for their crews to get this stuff done in a timely fashion. So they are shut down for summer shutdown. They will resume after Labor Day. I think Labor Day's on a Monday this year. So I don't think they're resuming to Wednesday in September. And the concentration will be on the momentary slab to go over Cold Brook. That's where they're gonna be starting up. I know it looks like this is nearly finished, except for where telephone poles are. There's still a fair amount. There's still
Yeah.
a fall season. The contract provides the contractor 3 years to finish the job. I expect Lynch will be finished this fall.
To your point, like, I never thought we'd be at asphalted surfaces and something to walk on this summertime. I
This
thought-
fast, I didn't
Yeah,
either.
I didn't.
And we've tried to limit, DOT wanted to quarantine off the sidewalk because it's not a finished product, right? They make temporary markings, temporary pavement, so that there's no tripping hazards. But then they were amenable to leaving it open except for the bridge crossing down by Brax.
I have two comments that the town citizens asked for a sidewalk from, is it Gorham?
Yes,
On the, which would be.
on the north side.
Thank
Yeah.
you. North side of 28, and they got, and that wasn't originally in the plans. The second comment was that Link said that he heard that they may do an overlay on Route 28 because of the work that they've done in 28, so I'm hoping that if that rumor is true, that they do.
Time,
Madam Chair,
yes, sir.
the overlay I was speaking to Mr. Beltis about was simply in front of one particular house where you had some grade issues, and Mass DOT was so amenable that they did an overlay and changed the road grades rather than having to have a more invasive approach on private property. So again, DOT has been about as amenable as I've ever seen them on this entire project. It's going faster than I ever imagined. Utility companies are being cooperative beyond my imagination. So I just say, let's hit it in September and keep up the good work.
And I'd have to say from, you know, just a stand back perspective, Mass DOT may be, you know, amenable to doing these things, but it's really because the DPW wants to work with people as opposed to stonewall or block or be non-responsive. And that's all to you. And the way you lead your department is that you have a let's work this out together and get it done attitude, which really helps Mass DOT saying, well, we can work with this people, we can work with this department and get something accomplished, and if there's a snag, we figure it out. So I think you should take some credit too for the way that you conduct your department and yourself.
Thank you, Linda, but in all seriousness, I have yet to run into another, just entire team, from the resident engineer, the senior engineer, the project manager. We struck a home run with these people that all promulgate what you just said about me, that they are wanting to work this out. I've been to a couple of meetings with one abutter that attorneyed up, and, you know, DOT was holding a meeting, but I'm the one with all the history, who's worked with that particular abutter and so forth. I was invited as garnish. I end up doing most of the talking because I had the historical perspective, and, you know, had to make sure the record was straight. Even with the acrimony that was there, DOT made the homeowner whole, more than whole, in my opinion. So, thank you for the compliment, but this was really between Lynch and Mass DOT. It just, wish all the projects went this smoothly.
Cool. All right, moving on, some new business. There was a Harwich Port Main Street corridor study, which is also on the town website. The select board, it was on their agenda on March 24th. I live in Harwich Port, so I was interested in the study. Again, sometimes it's a good, I mean, it's an interesting study, it seems complete. Sometimes some of the suggestions in the study strike me as odd, like putting bike lanes on Pleasant Street, which is barely 2 cars wide as it is. So to try to put bike lanes just seemed like, did you actually look at the street? You know, just another, are you actually using Google Earth, or are you going and walking these streets and looking at them? Because bike lanes on Pleasant Street seems a non-starter. A good idea, but where are they gonna go? Unless you have the street go one way, and that would really make the neighbors happy. So just the fact that it's out there, I think if we've reviewed it, but I'm not sure where it sits with the select board at this point. Because again, as Aaron pointed out,
Yeah,
a lot of suggestions are this,
And many of the suggestions are Route 28, which is not the town's jurisdiction.
which we can't do anything anyways about 28.
On a side note regarding Harwich Port, Link, the DPW, had completed their intersection improvements down at South and Miles.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that was, looks good.
Looks wonderful. I have heard a couple of complaints about it, but it seems to be working, and I don't know that any of the neighbors are terribly upset or not.
No. I mean, as a driver and walker, I feel safer in that little intersection because I know I can go into it and I'm not having to watch here for somebody to come wailing through that slipper lane. I think it did clean up some safety aspects of that. I mean, there still is, you've got the point coming down, and I'm not sure how we'd ever fix that.
We haven't any issues.
And you've had no
complaints,
issues?
No accidents, no.
Everybody seems happy.
All right, another win.
The abutters to that project were all wonderful. No issues. We have significant most of the tree cutting happened probably 2 years ago. I want to say Eversource. All the utility companies minus Verizon have been extremely responsive on that project. It was essentially Verizon holding
And the monument stayed in the same area.
Yes, it did. The abutters that were most affected, they're both not living there currently. I ran into a relative because we kept going by knocking on the door saying, what would you like to see out here? And they didn't have an opinion, so we just threw some ornamental grasses there and seeded it.
Yep.
And I think it looks fine.
Yeah, it does, and I think the addition of the barrier made it clear that you weren't supposed to do this, because before the barrier went up, there was ruts that somebody didn't realize, but.
One set of tracks through there.
One set of tracks.
Yep,
Hasn't
The
been
one
anything
person.
since then.
no ma'am.
Again,
Ooh.
moving on.
All right, I had an email from an individual, some traffic issues on Julian and Hoyt. Hoyt is in Harwich Port, and it parallels 28. And I've walked Hoyt twice, and I'm really not sure what could be done about it, because there's a section of the road that does this, and it winds, and it's all over. If you're going a little too fast, yes, it can be dangerous. But I didn't see any signs, I didn't see any of those yellow advisory signs at the beginning of where it gets really snaky and saying S-curves ahead, on either side. There's nothing to alert somebody who doesn't know the road that there's gonna be a wiggle worm coming. And it is pretty significant and some hilly, and is that something that we need permission from somebody to do, to put up some yellow curve ahead signs? Aram?
I mean,
I didn't mean to put you on the
no,
spot there.
it's fine.
That's our processes.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
and-
Yeah, I can sense, I just, was it a one-off? I just feel like sometimes we,
Well, it was just one
yeah,
person.
we put a lot of signage up for everything, but. I mean, no, there's not, yeah, we certainly can, is there even a sign that meets the code that warns of, the curve? in the
Yes.
road? I can't remember, I know some of them, like S-curve ahead.
Yes, advisory signs, Aram requests it,
Yeah.
we'll have it
It's certainly
made
not
and
going to
put
hurt
'em up.
anything, right? If that's-
No, it's not gonna hurt anything, but it was the one thing that I noticed, because there are all these, mostly, small streets coming off of Hoyt. Vegetation was pretty much cut back. My husband and I walked up and down it twice to kind of take a look at it. I like visual. I need to
Yeah.
see
Well,
see
What
what's
I'm,
being talked
what I'm
about.
seeing here on Google Map is there an island there, or is that part of a driveway? on the end?
Driveway.
That's a driveway, okay. So on the end of Julian, there's painting. and-
We're talking about Hoyt,
Wait, I'm sorry.
talking about Hoyt.
So I will say, my wife and I would talk at, go to Cape Health, and it would be closed on the weekends, and walk over to Cobra. And you do have to negotiate that thing, and there's I don't know if it'll help somebody or not, pay attention, something's coming, but I
Talking about
guess.
At the dam, or the
Yeah,
former
if you
dam?
walk across
the-
and
the
you
culvert.
get into the preserve there, it's like, what side of the road do you walk on? I mean, I guess it won't,
There's such low traffic.
there is
there.
low traffic,
It's-
but if you're not,
And I don't think we have a bunch of accidents there.
no, we don't, have any, actually.
Well, how about, Aram, if you would just take a look at that? Does
Sure.
it warrant it?
Happy.
Yes or no, but I think, just take a look at it.
Hey, I'm not gonna say it's not challenging. When we were doing work at the culvert, remove the dam, we just shut the road off,
Yeah,
right? Because of the lack of line of sight, it is a tough place, but without construction or something going on, how fast can you honestly
You can't be
navigate
going very
that?
fast. No.
This reverts back to the,
Ending up in the parking lot.
Right.
Oh, there you go.
25 miles an hour, that's about all you're gonna.
What you should be doing, yes.
Sure, you can close it, that's, reverts back to Cape Cod being as old as it is, and the roads are designed,
They follow the cows.
yes, and then they have upgraded them, and paved them, but they're still on the same track, and the roads are the roads, and what happened in the 1700s is what we're living with, so.
Right, and unless people want to give up 40 feet of their front yard so we could straighten the road out, which probably isn't going to happen. I think I'll lay money on that one.
What's the Julian Road?
The Julian is it's on, it hits 28.
Oh, where that.
That triangle is, and there's two ins and outs this way and two ins and outs on both sides of the triangle. And, the individual that just says that, Julian is, it's difficult. Because people, somebody is coming from 28, if they come zipping in from 28, take a turn, and there's somebody also coming into the street, but I don't know if there's that many accidents there, if it's just,
So they're saying if someone's going east, like towards Chatham 28 and bears right, and you're coming up Julian Road,
yeah, you
They're
could
worried about
easily,
the-
yeah,
It's kind of like the slipper lane where you have.
yes.
So, in looking at the map, again, 1700, I don't know why they did that. It could be changed to have the island removed and make
A
the.
telephone pole in the middle of the island.
All right, well-
I think the garden club has
Yes.
a presence in there as well.
they do, they have that whole island.
All right,
I'm
so.
not sure if it's actual memorial for something, but I know that the garden club.
Okay, you could take and remove then the westerly entrance
Island's fine.
and keep just the east entrance and square it off and just remove that one westerly side of the entrance and make only one entrance and exit.
I heard from a couple of people on this one, that they feel that, on Julian, trying to get in and out of this, is it a possibility that if you want to enter, you have to come in one side of the island, you want to exit, you go the other side of the island rather than have two? But I'm sure that the telephone pole had something to do with the two sides, maybe not, who knows?
If you're serious, if this committee was serious about going after it, this is one of these intersections that I would say we would be remiss if we didn't get it engineered.
Yes. Yeah, this is definitely not a
Because
throw
if you
paint
go and
down.
realign something and, Lord forbid there's a fatality there,
Oh, I agree with you. I think that, something
I didn't
like,
know it was an issue. I go through there all the time. When I pull out, when I come from Red River Beach, if I go that way, I'll take like I would be going towards Chatham.
That's what I do.
Because you have a better line,
sight, yeah.
you're more aligned with it. So
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be unreasonable to block it off like Jerry said.
That's similar to
But I
what
wouldn't,
we are trying to do with Old Chatham.
but we
Get a
did,
right angle entrance.
yeah, well, it's already exists. That slipper lane, for lack of a better term, that slipper lane already exists. So I think you could get there with just blocking one side off. But again, I would have it engineered before I'd make any changes.
right, because this is a little different than Hoyt, which you're not engineering anything. You may be putting up a couple of signs.
Right.
That doesn't require engineering.
Right.
But this would be, yeah, I would agree with you that if this was going to be put on a list to take a look at for possible engineering,
You need an access permit from DOT. And
All of
they're gonna-
that.
And they're gonna require it engineered.
Yep.
It's not even if like the town wanted to do it, you really are bound to have it done properly.
So we don't have many comment from the residents or the people that use that area.
a
It's-
couple, I've had a couple, because we have our traffic safety email, so people send us emails, see, no good deed goes unpunished. You put it in an email and people use it, which is good.
So, reaching out to the people would be one of the first things that we could do to see if there's opposition or,
Yeah, what I'll do is I have, the one email that I happen to have in my packet, my book here. I could get back to that person and say, what do your neighbors think? What would your neighbors like? Because we were very successful at that on Cross Street. What do the neighbors want? Or what would they like to see happen?
I think this is a different animal than Cross Street. So Cross Street was entirely local. Yes,
Yes.
it
Yeah,
intersected
yeah,
with
yeah.
it, but all the changes were made off. We're talking about changing the intersection with the major thoroughfare in town.
But I think knowing what the neighbors on that area would like gives us direction as to whether or not we'd want to proceed.
I mean, we may not.
We
go
may
with
not
what
do
they like,
anything.
but-
Yeah, that's my
Yeah,
point,
it
is
might
what
not be
they
able
might
to go.
desire might be entirely
Yeah, yeah,
different
that's-
than
that's-
If it's
what you
one
end up with.
person or two people that are upset and the rest of the people don't care, then, you know, majority type rules. And there's also the access to the beach. The beach goers and anybody else that uses that area.
Yeah. So I think, but seeing as how we've been successful, I mean, I know Cross Street was a different animal because it didn't involve Route 28 and anything
We
else.
weren't changing anything at the intersection of 28.
No. But I think that asking the neighborhood, the residents who live there, what would you like to see done? It's just like anything else. One person wants a speed bump and the rest of the neighbors are in, open rebellion, because that's not what they want. So having an idea of what the neighbors want is a pretty good idea, because it starts helping us decide where we go.
Yeah, tell us what you want and we'll see if we can do it.
All right, I'll email back this gentleman and say, what do your neighbors want? And see if that helps decide a direction. Because you're
Okay.
right, it hits 28, it's changing an intersection with 28, and that creates a whole level of hoop-de-doo.
Yeah, and I will check and see if that's a formal memorial square or something. There might be some restrictions we're unaware of, but I will
So,
check on that.
On Cross Street, it was local money and very little or no engineering, was placing some signs and enforcement.
Yep. This is a different animal.
This has a larger cost.
Okay, good. All right, number C, we have an invitation from the Board of Appeals for our input on the traffic studies that have been submitted for Pine Oaks Village 4, POV 4, as it gets called in the newspapers. It is not a request for us to opine on the project of Pine Oaks Village 4. It is the traffic studies. Do we think, I had a conversation with the chair of the ZBA, and he wants to get other opinions on, if we would be willing to make a do we think that the traffic studies done were adequate? Did they do the job they were asked to do? Again, it's got nothing to do with whether or not you like Pine Oaks 4 as a project. That's irrelevant. If the question is, what do you think of the traffic studies which went on Queen Anne Road down? And I'm leaving it up to, I said that I would bring it to the group, and what did they think as to whether or not we wanted to have some kind of statement from the Traffic Safety Committee?
So I sat in with the committee when Pine Oaks presented their traffic study. I have not investigated the traffic study that was put on by the town. Do they conflict largely or not at all?
Madam Chair, I did read this traffic study, not the 600 pages. I took the summaries, each section.
This is the one that the town had done.
Yes, the VHB traffic study that the Board of Selectmen engaged for both 28 and, let's say, Harwich Port and North Harwich. I paid more attention to the North Harwich one because I too had a conversation with the chairman of the ZBA. He had requested my input on that. My input was, I thought the traffic study was pretty thorough.
The town's traffic study?
The town's traffic study. So I was clear, I'm going to speak as the DPW director, not as a
Absolutely.
member of this committee. I declined the ZBA's request for my testimony. I said, you've got traffic engineers that are going to be in the room. I have offered in writing the extent of the DPW's involvement with this project, and I stood by those remarks. So I said, I have nothing germane to offer as far as testimony for these two upcoming ZBA hearings. The traffic study calls out a lot of problem intersections, a lot of problems. little shot on solutions. It mainly said, yeah, these intersections are operating at a level D or F, and they're gonna be worse in the future.
D or F?
Further analysis,
With regards to,
the level of service of an
so A
intersection
is,
is the best and F is not.
so the problem is that there is already problems there.
There's already problems that are gonna be exacerbated by the potential project in the future. They didn't really, in my opinion, digest or being able to explain that on that level. It was, most of the recommendations, what I read out of it was, yeah, it's gonna require further analysis. If the town wishes to go and improve this intersection or that particular intersection, we all know where these problems are. The only one that I kind of disagree on with them was Chatham Road and Depot. Because, yes, there was 2 fatalities there, but those line of sight there is wide open. I mean, I know that there's probably continued issues there, maybe flashing stop sight, but I didn't see that as, that intersection as troublesome, but it was drawn out in the report. We all know Main Street and Depot, right? If you go through there during rush hour in the morning or the evening, you're gonna be in a queue, waiting a little while. Same thing with Depot and Great Western. They called all of these out. They've got a summary in here somewhere. But there was nothing, I didn't look at this as like a to-do list or something. This is, these are what we've identified the problems. To fix them is gonna take more
Because-
money and further analysis.
So there is a conflict between the 2 different studies. The one from.
I didn't say that, Jerry.
Okay, well, the one that the Pine Oaks people had done kind of said everything's gonna be fine, we're just gonna be great, and this one here is pointing out that there are problems.
Are any of the problems pointed out in the VHB study a surprise to you?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Are
so
you
it's
aware?
not like,
Yeah.
it's not like the project Pine Oaks 4 is creating the difficulties on Queen Anne Road and Main Street, et cetera, and Depot. It will impact it, but these things already exist, yes or no?
Yes.
So some
So
of
I'm
the-
just trying to be fair here. I'm not gonna have a pony in the race on whether or not I support Pine Oaks Village 4 or not, because that's not the place for that here. I'm just making sure that we understand the traffic study.
Level
The
of
roads are already
service.
terrible.
It will exacerbate the issues.
It's gonna
outlined in the
exacerbate
study.
what is already a bad situation.
So,
Yeah.
the problems that are there are gonna get
Worse.
more problematic. And, to solve some of them, it's gonna be huge land takings, and the fix is gonna be a huge engineering and a cost. I don't know that when the problems get worse, we have to do something. My thoughts were, when I went to the committee meeting with Pine Oaks, that
Yeah.
some money be put aside in an escrow account to fix these problems once they build a project, but evidently that's not possible. That's my thought, is that as things go forward and they say, okay, well, our traffic study was flawed and we need to fix this, and it's left to the town, and they've already finished their project. Again, we're left holding the bag for somebody else's actions.
But
I
then
don't know.
again, to be fair, the road is terrible now, and the town has not fixed it. The town has not done anything, has not done very much to fix the situation, so we're already holding the bag.
Yes, and it goes back again to the roads were designed in the 1700s, and now we have a built-up Cape Cod, and the roads aren't gonna handle the volume of traffic. And the one thing about Pine Oaks 4 is it won't be so much of a seasonal problem that we see. It'll be a year-round problem.
That is a possibility. But again, the road's already terrible. problematic in very many areas.
with rolling.
I would say, yes, there are some level of service issues at some of the subject intersections. I don't know about the road being terrible.
No, but the intersections, the
think-
road is
Well,
not the
with
road,
DPW
no, not the
director, I can't
road.
let that go.
No, I got it, not the
Pretty
road.
proud of our roads in Harwich, actually.
I know you are.
A couple main ones need some attention, but
But I'm just,
the
in
sewer
terms of
projects just drain the life out of my road maintenance
the
program.
whole, just the whole, there are areas that could use work in terms of,
They're outlined in this report. Next steps were further analysis for any particular intersection. And what they did is they did the crash rates they identified 15 problem intersections. The crash rates at, I think, 7 of them exceeded the Mass DOT average. And that's how the template they use to identify issues. We know where the issues are. Aaron's responding to those issues.
Yes. Well, Lots along that road. It's the volume.
Yeah.
That's what you're just gonna see increasing. Whether the road can do it, it's just gonna mean,
So, there was some discussion about the 124 Queen Anne Road. They identified most of the accidents as being rear enders.
yep,
I'm sorry, but I mean, how is that saying the intersection's not doing its
no,
job?
the intersection there is doing what we, who
What
was designed to
intersection?
do.
Yeah.
What intersection again was that?
The stoplights at Queen Anne 124, Pleasant Bay Road.
People
That-
forget what it was like before the,
You mean the four-way stop or the fatality we had before they?
combination.
That's a weird.
It's doing what it's supposed to do.
It's better, and the only issues I ever hear, how come you don't have dedicated lefts? And the reason are, we needed private property to put in what's there now.
that's,
Bob Gould had to move his house back. Okay, there's still other constraints of private property. So we've taken every last bit of property out there imaginable to make that intersection work. Just don't have when Aram stated, people forget, traffic used to back up onto Route 6 before we signalized that.
That's the parking ride.
Well, I'm saying, on the
Yeah,
ramp,
yeah, yeah,
it used to
yeah. Oh,
affect
yeah,
Route
yeah,
6.
sure.
We back out on the ramp.
Yeah.
Because most of your people are using 124 to get to Chatham.
Yeah.
Or East Harwich or Chatham, or something like that. And, so we have to, that's why you've got a controlled left turn heading south, and you don't have one heading north on 124.
so would a fair thing for this committee to say is, I'm not gonna say, appreciate, I don't know what word to use, we support the traffic study that was done by VHB, and we encourage, the town, the select board, to have further studies done and start monetizing what might be done where. I don't know, I'm just tossing it out.
So, as I understand it, 40B, they can go ahead and do their development, and the mediation, is that the word I'm looking for?
Remediation.
Remediation of the roads, et cetera, doesn't necessarily have to be the cost borne by them.
This is not because of the 40B, it is not a DRI, so there's not gonna be mitigation money. In fact, the ZBA's hearing, I think, is the only bite at the apple that they get, and I'm not sure how much leverage they have
You might wanna
with the
tell the
applicant.
public what a DRI is.
A development of regional impact. So like Stop and Shop, when they expanded their store, we had $1.4 million of mitigation, of which we built a roundabout and redid the intersection at 137 and 39. In this instance, there will not be DRI money.
So, any talk of improving any of the problems is still on us. And
Most likely.
they can do what they desire.
Under the law, which is 40B. It's not
Yeah.
what they desire. They got 40B, it's the law of the land, or of Massachusetts at least. So they get to, if they follow 40B, that's what happens.
So, any opinion we have regarding it's a moot point, so to speak.
Well, possibly.
I think it's important we stay something, whether we support it or not, so we can always say we said our piece and.
How about we just read it? Me being flip, not going over well.
I don't have a water gun with me.
I don't know, I'm not a traffic engineer,
Yeah,
it's not my
neither am
training.
I.
So to
Pick it
try,
up.
yeah,
Pick
to
it
try to
apart.
pick it
Yeah,
apart and
right.
make recommendations, or pick this out or that out, I'm uncomfortable with.
I agree with, like, over the years, we have been asked to study intersections and look at this, and that's been my response, like, I am not a traffic engineer. I can tell you how many accidents we have and what makes sense to the, common person, but that's what these people do, so.
Right.
I wouldn't be comfortable opposing it, or,
Yeah,
but I think.
Do we want to make going back to, I said, do we want to make some kind of statement that says, we encourage the town, the select board, to put on their to-do list additional studies identifying what could be done where, the areas that have been picked for problematic intersections, et cetera, to do more study, is there going to be engineering work, and whether or not we want to take on projects and support that effort. Because, yeah, they're going to
I
cost,
could go along with that if
Lots
you
of-
want to make that a motion.
well, I'm just throwing it out as a suggestion to,
okay, so put on your former hat,
which one?
select board member, and say, all right, so this committee says, yeah, we think you should do more with it. What are they gonna do? They're gonna turn around and say, hey, traffic safety, why don't you pick one of the 16 identified in the,
And we'll work on that one. What? That could work
you
too.
know, I don't know.
I don't either. That's why I'm not comfortable with doing one or the other. Because I agree with you, Lincoln, I don't want to sit there and say, page 6, item 2, we'd like to work on, we'd like to pick on that one. But, because I think there are several up and down that. I mean, I'm still waiting for when, what's called the Marceline property, which is where, Queen, at Oak Street, Queen Anne, and it hits, I'm still waiting for the entertainment that's going to happen when the traffic from that comes right out onto there, 6 inches from a traffic light. Well, maybe not 6 inches, maybe it's 12 inches.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's right at a, I can't wait to see what that traffic fiasco is going to look like.
Well, they discussed that in this
Yeah.
report, they took all the ones, they even included the Love Lane
Yeah,
reference in there. I don't know, unfortunately, I guess I don't have an opinion on this.
So the Board of Selectmen,
select board.
Select Board, I'm sorry again, could take this report and call VHB and ask them what's gonna happen, and instead of us having an opinion, they could go directly to VHB and get a more defined answer.
They could also say of the number of intersections, is there an intersection or two that are the lower hanging fruit? Then they
Yeah.
reinvent the world type of
You
thing.
notice me chomping at the bit to say, let's go on this. I mean, where I think the worst level of service is for these intersections we're talking about is Main Street and Depot.
Yeah,
And what's there to be done? It's a 4-way stop. Sure, a roundabout would go, but you don't have the property, and I haven't seen anybody say, hey, take this $2 million and make it happen. Probably be more, because you need private property.
Yeah, and that involves,
I'm just using it as an example, that's a pinch point. There's tons of pinch points in here. What to be done about it is gonna be costly,
all of them.
and
all of them.
if you wanted to go to that point, then
Well, one small hanging fruit they did say is, the intersection of Pleasant Bay and Queen Anne. They would do an analysis and then reprogram the existing stoplights to see what's changed in the last 10 years since it was last touched. That's kind of low-hanging fruit. I could just do that summarily, but with this going on, I'm kind of,
Yeah. I'm
You
sure
know.
you have enough, rather than
so
taking.
not all of it's costly. There are some things that would be easy that we could do, but,
the one,
I don't think this is,
the one thing that I looked at when I was chairperson of the committee was adding a stop sign, and I spoke to Link about this, on Main Street. So the traffic flowing from Depot to Main to Queen Anne will be able to flow right through instead of hesitating and waiting to see if a car is coming down Main Street from Great Western.
Yeah.
So if they put a stop sign there, that would allow the flow. And that's similar to a lot of intersections. There's one in Dennis and there's one in Chatham that have stop signs at that type of pointed.
What happened with that? That makes perfect sense, why,
Well, I asked,
remember
the
what
Traffic
happened.
Safety Committee then asked the Cape Cod
on Main
Commission,
Street, heading.
and Glenn Cannon
stop
said,
at Queen Anne.
Glenn Cannon said that that would be an appropriate move. I asked Link, and you said you were ambivalent because you didn't have any real thoughts because it wasn't a huge issue. But I mentioned it to you, and you said that if you had some input on the 40B project, that you might look at that as a suggestion. That would,
Is that a real queuing issue? I think it would, most of your flow, let's face it, 90% of the flow is Queen Anne Road.
that's the
But I
issue.
don't really
There's not
experience
there's not a
major
queuing issue.
issues.
I don't know that there's an accident issue.
Is there accident issues?
It's,
Occasional one, but nothing that jumps out like Pleasant Bay at
yeah,
39.
it's a convenience thing. I'm sure the people on Main Street would not be happy.
My-
But everybody else going up Queen Anne Road from Main Street would be appreciative. It would be something that we could recommend, and it would have to go before the board. The one thing that I find out the downside of it is that a lot of the traffic going onto Queen Anne is trucks, large trucks, and the noise of them going up the hill from that intersection, instead of having to slow down and then go up through the gears or whatever. I don't know if that's a noise issue would affect the neighbors.
Interesting point.
I don't know if I'm in the right spot with the sign. Where are we?
So at Main
Like if
Street
you
and
come-
Queen Anne, so
Yep, yep.
you'd say you're coming down Queen Anne, so you wouldn't have to stop there at Main Street. You'd make that
So
the
the stop
flow.
sign would be like.
On,
if you're
on
going-
Main,
Be an
if you're
additional-
heading west on Main.
That's-
It would be an
I-
additional-
then I didn't understand if they didn't have to stop, why would,
Yeah. So it'd be an additional stop sign
Yeah.
at that intersection, and it would be at Main.
I just wonder if it's a site thing. It's my only concern is if the road's not like perfectly straight and level there. That's my only, I don't think it's a bad idea.
I'm gonna say,
So-
I think that would improve, let's say 90%, 80% of the traffic there is using Queen Anne Road.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
very
in-
low
increase it.
number.
However, I drive that every single day, and I don't experience a pinch point of very much waiting on Queen Anne whatsoever.
No.
If you're coming back, say you're heading east on Main, it's, the fact that you have to kind of wait for a car to come down or whatever there, sometimes you're inconvenienced a little, but I don't see it as a pinch point like Main and Depot is, where
Yeah.
you actually end up waiting.
It's not a problem area. It's a,
Could you improve things? Yeah, I think that suggestion will probably improve it, Jerry.
so that's my only thought on any of this, and that's an aside from the 40B.
Right,
So-
and it is, aside from all that.
And that wasn't in here. That wasn't in here. I don't believe that intersection was.
Yeah,
In the-
somewhere in the files at the commission where Glenn Cannon looked at that, and he said that it made sense to do it. I think there was a copy, and that probably got handed to you, and I don't know if it,
I
you
don't
found it.
remember this I don't
I
remember that
think
at all.
until this project is either up, down, constructed.
Yeah, I'm
that
not
we'd
sure I'd wanna
probably
be
avoid
playing with
trying to
the-
make
Yep.
any changes in this neighborhood that are directed
agree.
by the
Leave it
Board
alone.
of Selectmen.
Yeah, I would think.
Select Board, sorry.
I'm glad you corrected yourself. Thank you very much. I was at a
Moving
meeting.
right along.
I was at a
So I
meeting
don't have an
recently where
opi-
someone said that, Madam Chairman, and I almost went out of my seat. That one annoyed me. Yes?
I agree.
I might have said that too.
Yeah, you got
So
beaten
anyway,
up over it.
do we have any input on this? Are we
Do we
gonna,
want to have any kind of recommendation to tell the Board of Appeals what we think? If we have any inclination to do that, because that's really the point.
I will make a motion that
Yes.
the Board of Appeals ask the Select Board, of what their thoughts are on the VHB study and what they think should be done.
That's not the
That's nothing to
question.
do with this committee.
That's got nothing to do with this. It's whether or not we want to have an opinion on the study.
in front of the ZBA.
It says us. It's in front of the ZBA. It's not in front of the select board.
Okay, then I don't have anything.
Yeah,
I don't have
You
any.
should be,
Okay, so we are, okay, so there's a decline,
I mean. I think
decline to opine.
From the standpoint of, like Link said, the traffic engineers have weighed in, they're the professionals.
Yep.
I think we should be.
And if
opposed
it's, and if it's the street itself, I mean, we probably should have had that study done 10 years ago.
Karen, you're being awfully quiet over there.
I'm still learning. I'm listening.
That's a good
But I
trait.
see her snickering.
Smarter than the rest of
And
us.
taking notes.
She's,
Quite deadly.
All right, great. So any other business that came from the committee? Link, I thought you might want to, your four-way stop sign things.
Yeah, I just emailed that to the committee last night. You could see that came in from DOT's consultant. I have not had an opportunity to look at them. I thought it was pretty poor of them to ask to have this returned by Friday.
I saw
Having the
that too.
town- Having the municipality execute an agreement that takes executive to vote by Friday.
Right.
For four-way stop materials, I could,
Is that the 53-page
so who was the
report?
consultant that did
Yes,
this?
those are those
that was
353.
GPI,
I couldn't
yes.
even open the thing. I was trying to print it before I came here, and I didn't want it open.
I
So-
opened it and I saw 51 of 53 and I closed it.
There's three of them,
I
three
know, I
separate
saw that.
ones.
I saw that.
So GPI, you said, was the consultant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, which
And-
they clearly don't understand municipal government, because we can't sign something, the board meets once a week, we have to put it on agenda, blah, 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 open meeting law, et cetera. There's stuff here. I'm
Yeah,
asking you to opine on something.
No, they're asking me to execute it.
I know they
I'm
are.
not executing.
So
In 2 days.
GPI, how is GPI looking at this and not looking at?
So this is a directive of Mass DOT. This is another one where they got some funding. They hired a consultant. The consultant came out. I had my staff, my road manager, go around with them. I actually met the engineer out at Pleasant Bay and 39, which is one of the candidates for a four-way stop. I do not believe that that ought to be a four-way stop because the traffic volumes are not anywhere near equal. The other one, where are the other two?
The 3-1 where Sisson crosses south, that was
Sisson
one.
crosses south.
There was the Pleasant Bay crossing Route 39, and Lower County and Earl.
Lower County and Earl, do you have an opinion? I really don't have an opinion there. I don't see any harm, I don't see any good, right?
I think you guys put those signs up, crossing traffic does not stop or whatever.
Right.
That has helped.
So why,
I think if you make that a four-way, we're gonna hear it all the way down the street. We want a four-way, we want a four-way.
You're gonna hear it all the way down the street, every
so
single
why
one.
is this company going here, and again, 124 Route 6, the backups that happen every day,
This
all year
was,
round? Why aren't they looking at some of the state problems instead of the town problems? They have their own problems that they can't fix, and they're telling us to fix our problems?
Well, you're not gonna put a four-way stop on Route 6.
No, but
I think.
the acceleration lane, Link and I had talked about this, is problematic. It's antiquated, and it could be, and should be improved. And we've met roadblocks when we've asked.
I don't think that was the intention of this particular
No.
group to do that. I
this
understand your
this
point.
was to give away free stop signs and engineering value.
And it's completed its review of the above-referenced intersection in Harwich, Mass. For eligibility to convert to all-way stop control. That's what the point of these studies were, is to identify places on the Cape where you could have they're going to propose a four-way stop. This is not a traffic on
So-
Route 6. You gotta understand the study,
Okay,
Jerry.
okay,
What's
all
its
right, all right,
point?
All right, so at Pleasant Bay 39, we made improvements, pulled back poles and put up the flashing. Has that made,
Yes.
so we're,
Severity and the number have significantly dropped. They're still there, and when they happen, it becomes social, look at this is the worst, it becomes a big thing, but the reality is the severity is, I mean, we used to have some bad ones there. Has dropped way off and the number have. As an example, well, you said earlier, but another example, what Lincoln, the crew at DPW have done, that was low-lying fruit, cutting trees, some road paint that went miles to help that
Moving
intersection.
fences, moving
Fences,
other things.
Talking to neighbors and trying to, you know, that was,
So, the rear end crashes at Queen Anne and 124, you can't fix driver inattention. So, in the crashes, so even if we put a four-way stop there, it would moderately increase the safety, but we'll still have crashes.
wasn't Betty Fowle? Wasn't that Betty now?
One more time,
Were you talking about a four-way stop?
if they were looking at a Pleasant
Wasn't Betty and?
in
Yeah.
39, yeah,
think it's a terrible idea.
you'd still have crashes.
I concur, terrible idea.
Okay, well,
They're
that's,
gonna back 39
What do you
up,
care?
and
What, all right, are we agreed that bad idea there?
yeah, I think
Correct.
what's going on is working. There are still going to be accidents, it's just numbers, right? There's a lot of volume of vehicles, and, I mean, one of the commission studies showed that during the season, the vast majority of the crashes, the causation is cars coming from the direction of the Wapwasit. Got to imagine they may be unfamiliar with the area, and, you know, most of them are yielding the right of way. They're failing the right of way. But since that stuff has been done, the signs, the paint, the trees, the fence, it's really made a.
I'll make a motion that we do not support.
Can we go one by one, Linda? There were three of
Sure.
them in here.
There were
so
three
we
of
just-
them.
We just agreed as a committee
I do not-
that 39 in Pleasant Bay was a bad idea.
yep. So if there's a,
Can we do,
we'll do, well, we have to do the motions one by one. So right now, there's a motion on the floor to not support a four-way stop, Pleasant Bay Road and 39. Is there a second?
second?
Okay, thank you, Lincoln. Discussion on that one.
I think we just had it.
Okay, so no
Have
further
nothing to
discussion?
add other than what we spoke of.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is not to support a four-way stop, Pleasant Bay and Route 39. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. The other one was, the second one was Sisson and South.
Somebody just had an accident. I think Chief just had an accident there, or a close call or something. Because I called him about that, and I remember him saying something. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know where the accidents there come from. I have to take a look. We do have some accidents there, but it's not off the chart number.
My guess is, because I'm a walker in that area, it's the crossing Sisson to go to, because South continues.
Continue on south.
That's the point where people are trying to zip across, because you have, there's a bit of a hill coming from one direction. So people are coming a little too fast, and it's not as visible.
What's that,
Somebody,
35 through here? 40? You drive it every day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I had a
Consistent.
past coworker from the fire department who lives off of South, and they were going south on South Street, and they almost blew through, and it was just a mind blank, so to speak.
Want some flashing stop sign? Well, I don't know enough about that to really have an opinion one way or another.
And there's been one crash that I can recall with the past couple of years, but
We-
the stop sign, you got that hill coming down from the north.
yeah, it's the hill coming down that is going too
I don't
fast,
know
because
if
there's a
we have
crosswalk there.
signs on that section of the road coming from the elementary school that says stop ahead.
Do we, or what? I'm sorry, was that?
I'm
No, we
asking,
don't.
do we have,
I
think
don't
so.
know, but we could certainly put some up. I mean,
But it's not, it's because there's no stop sign, four-way stop there now. And if you're paying attention to driving, big assumption, is that it's pretty clear you're at the end of the road, that there's road there.
so let me say, when this first happened, I called Colleen, I said, I don't think any of these three intersections. She said, well, there's no harm in going
Right,
through the
right.
process. I called you about this. I called you, Linda, about this. Now we've done this process, and I'm not particularly interested in any of it. None of it made sense. This one, I'm a little like, maybe there's some improvements on South, but I don't know if they'll give us new flashing stop lines to replace the existing ones if we don't bite off doing a four-way.
I think what would benefit is I could look at the accidents and see what the cause is, right? Because I don't think a lot of them are people running stop signs per se. I think the vast majority of them there, by immediate from going there, are their right-of-way issues. So people are stopping, they're looking, for whatever reason, they're not looking again, they're not seeing the car coming, whether it's a speed thing, which it probably isn't. I think that's what causes a lot of these.
Okay, so,
Causes a lot, but I don't know if,
Traffic volumes are certainly not anywhere near equal south to.
No, going
So-
across south-south, yeah.
so,
That's what I'm saying, is four-way stops lend themselves when you have somewhat relative traffic volumes. In this instance, you don't.
Okay,
You don't. I'm not, I don't know. I'm just,
so I think we're saying is that hold on Sisson and South,
yeah, I'm saying,
thinking about it.
I would agree with Aram and Link that he's gonna look at the history of the accidents, and Link is going to look at stop ahead signs and, I don't know, putting a stop sign on both sides of the intersection instead of one just in the right-hand lane would improve things, but, that's, just look at what's going on and put a stop ahead sign.
So basically, it's just hold on
so
that one.
do you want to take a vote on, I need to do something with this. I'm uncomfortable me summarily just saying no or yes. I personally weren't in favor of these three intersections, nor did I see them as problematic. Again, I think they were derived by grabbing DOT data rather than local data on crashes. But I was told at the front end, there's no harm in just going through the exercise. And here we are.
Yeah.
So I think we, Aram,
All right, do we want to then have a motion not to support Sisson Crossing South for a four-way stop sign? That's a motion. Anybody willing?
you made the motion?
Yep,
I'll second that.
okay. Any
Agreed.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And one abstention because I think he's in the restroom. Or answering his phone, I'm not sure which. The other one, the third one, was Lower County where it crosses Earl. Now, whether or not a four-way stop would be good there, and I don't know that, I'm not gonna have an opinion on that. I think then you're gonna have four-way stops all the way down Lower County Road,
Right.
from the Dennis line all the way to Harwich Port. And,
Yeah, I don't view Earl as being any different than any of the number of cross streets that are there that go down to the beaches.
Speaking to Aram,
Yeah,
we just brought up,
you're the new chair.
terrifying. Anyways, what are we talking about?
we voted on South Street and we didn't support it, but, and
Yeah.
you abstained.
and this
So,
is now Lower County
Lower County
and Earl.
And Earl. The crash rates on Lower County at Earl or any of the other intersections along Lower County Road, does one jump out above the others?
No.
They're all pretty much equal.
I would
Then
say so.
what,
Jumps out at me. I'm not, I think if we did something with Earl, there's gonna be Pleasant, there's gonna be Brooks.
Right.
It's just gonna be a
Every,
trickle
way
every
down
down.
beach
thing.
road,
And then you'll have a
Yeah.
gridlock on Lower County.
Every
Road.
beach
Every
road
beach
is where
road.
it's gonna be, and
Yeah.
they're all beach roads
they're all
going.
beach roads, yeah,
And then Lower County will be like,
right.
It's just gonna, it'll.
Turn into Howard Center
Yeah,
essentially
yeah,
with all the
yeah.
crosswalks.
there's
If
a
it was
jo-
a
there-
safety
I mean, Howard
thing,
Sport.
I would
There's
say
a joke
100%.
about that I can tell you later.
Yes,
100% if there was like, we go to Earl Road twice a week for accidents. I would say absolutely, but it does not jump out at me as.
Are they vicious or just minor?
and he's just saying if he went
If,
Oh,
twice a
If I-
week
if
to
I
Earl
went
Road.
we were going there all the time, I would say, it is what it is, we gotta put a stop sign. We gotta do something to curb this. But it does not jump out as me as that road is, I mean, summertime is crazy with the amount of people and the walkers and the
Oh, yeah.
joggers, but it's not, there are occasional
the
accidents.
speed on that road, is it a constant or is it
I
vary?
think it's like 35.
We
Yeah.
do get, I mean, we spent the motorcycles go out there in the summer because it's easy for them. Traffic
Is it a
wise.
constant, or does it vary like Queen Anne?
I think it's constant, Jerry. I don't think there's a.
Oh,
The
the speed limit?
Yeah, I think it's constant,
yeah.
35.
I think until you get towards, Allen Harbor or the yacht club, it drops off as you get closer to 28. And I know that's like a little spot people will park. But for the vast majority of the road, they're constant.
Okay, I can't support this then.
Okay, so, there was a motion on the floor, so all those in favor of the motion, which is not to support a four-way stop at Lower County and Earl?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, good
So-
conversation.
Linda,
Thankfully.
I will respond to the consultant, but I'll put the DOT people on there. I'm gonna CC you on my response, simply saying that this was vetted at the Traffic Safety Committee today, and they declined to take further action, or they declined to make these four-way stops.
Yep.
Okay? All right.
All right, is there any other business to come before the committee before we get to public comment?
And it probably should be agended, but we met last week, some representatives from Witchmere came in and want to talk to us about their project. I know it's been pulled, but we talked about a lot of traffic issues along that road that they're working on. We will probably see an application from them at some point for speed bumps on Snow Inn.
Yeah,
I gave them the application to explain the process. They claim the neighbors are all in full support of doing
Uh-huh.
well, I'd like to see that
Yeah,
in writing.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
They're doing a lot down there to try to appease the neighbors.
There's no, in my humble opinion,
Yeah,
there's no speeding on that road because it's so narrow anyhow. You can't go more than 30 miles an hour there. In fact, you 30, you feel like you're speeding.
He passed,
And we gave them the data. We have all the data from the speed, the radar things. Mark gave them all the data. They were appreciative of that. They're just, they're at a point where I think they're trying to, get the neighborhood on board and alleviate problems that the neighbors have brought to them. So one of the things they've got rid of is there's no more food delivery trucks. No more tractor trailers on Snow Inn. They go to the commissary on the old road. You can't bring a party bus, like the big wedding buses now, those 50-passenger things, they've stopped those. You have to use the small, they're concerns of the neighbors because of the vehicles and the people, and they're
So,
trying to make positive.
regarding speed bumps, the past town administrator in another town said that they had a road that speed was a problem. They put up the speed bumps, and they heard the cars accelerating away, which caused more noise, and then the landscape trucks and every other vehicle that rattles when they go over. The effects of a speed bump are not all one way.
My point is, if they go down that road and they provide like on Cross Street, they give you a petition with this many names on it saying, we are a proponent, I guess, would that be something we have to consider, because they're the ones that see this traffic?
Well, we only allow seasonal
Yeah.
anyhow.
Yeah, and I think that's probably all but I don't know, they just came in, they were doing their due diligence, and,
Yeah.
so my point is,
Who
we'll
came
probably
in,
see.
Anderson?
No, Sean Cullen.
From,
Works for Witchmere.
works for
Yep,
Witchmere?
had a lot of, interesting information on stuff they're trying to do to mediate.
So they've
mitigate.
retained the O'Neill Group, which is a lobbying group up on Beacon Hill, to try to get them through the commission and help them navigate this. And I've had calls. Initially, they were wanting the town to build a sidewalk on this road, and I vehemently said, no, you want to build a sidewalk, be my guest. Because I don't care even if the neighbors say yes, the right-of-way is so confined, you're talking about taking private property, and my experience has not been favorable. As soon as you say, I need 6 feet of your property to build this.
Plus so
That's
many of
like
those
asking to make
houses,
it a one-way road.
plus so many of those houses also on Snow Inn Road are built fairly close to the road. So 6 feet going in, people will be able to drive, deliver, and just shake hands on the porch.
So-
That's,
Well, I said if that's really what they want, a sidewalk, they can make an application and we could
Yeah.
see it go through. I think they might have backed off of that.
Yeah, they never mentioned sidewalk, they were
Okay.
just trying to tell us some of the things they're doing, and I explained, like, if you were interested, and there's an application on the DPW site, I printed one, because they gave them a copy, it would get agended, and you would get called when it gets to that point, but there's a review process that it has to go through. and-
absolutely.
So this is one of those that we have asked people on Cross Street, and again on Julian, is it?
We'll ask
What-
it on Julian.
What do you want? So again, we could ask the residents there, what do they want?
Well, it's not so much we're gonna ask them,
They-
we're gonna tell them they have to ask, we'd like to see what they have from the residents.
Yeah.
It sounded to me like they have done a lot of outreach to neighbors. In fact, one of the names they gave me they're gonna start the petition with, I didn't, wouldn't even consider them a neighbor to it, but I guess they are, and they're on board. So it sounds like they're trying to do some outreach to try to, they were only talk about traffic issues, that's all they came to us for. And,
That's good, so
Yeah.
you give,
I'm
you've
happy
given-
that
you've
they
given-
want, they got a successful business and they want to improve, but they're not the only ones that are being impacted.
but then again, the town wants to, I think the town walks that line between being, commercial business brings a lot of money to the town. So how do you trying to balance all of that? And it's good to hear that they're trying to work with the neighbors, because that is
Yeah.
in the summer, and I get it. How much of this is, there's a lot of traffic on that little snow-in road in June, July, and August, a huge level. And then the rest of the year, there's none. Some of the things we hear about is because, yes, the summer people are here, and there's a lot more traffic.
Okay.
Okay,
Can we move?
well, any other business to bring before board? That was interesting.
The gentleman that's sitting in the audience,
We
does
didn't
he?
get to public comment yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Have any public comment?
None. You answered all my questions.
Great, thank you.
I can go back to sleep until September. Thank you.
Glad we could be helpful.
Glad we could be
You
helpful.
have a wonderful idea that I could turn around and copyright and sell.
Okay, I think the last thing on the agenda, it's, time to reorganize our committee. So this is chair, vice chair, and clerk. And Karen has graciously agreed to be the clerk, which is great.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
You're
Look at
welcome.
how happy this man is.
I know,
No, when she came into the station for,
I got my license, by the way.
yes, yeah, good.
Yeah, I got it already, thank you.
And she told
Okay.
me
Oh,
she
you
was gonna
took care of
take.
a ticket.
So-
Come on.
so
No,
what-
she had offered, I said. I
So what
appreciate
kind, what kind of cookies or treats do you like? Brownies, cookies?
If it has chocolate in it, I'll eat it.
All right, we're good. So what do we want to do with this? Because this is, usually in the end of June, we're, in June.
is-
Yeah, the board was talking about that last night.
Who is
I
the
think they
vice
said
chair
do all
at this point?
You are. So currently, I'm the chair, you're the vice chair,
And,
and this is the clerk.
uh-huh.
So we have someone to replace the clerk.
Does
So-
anybody want to be vice chair?
Or chair.
What is vice chair involved? I don't know if vice chair might-
We
What he
listen-
does is
we-
he aggravates the bejesus out of me
Well,
on
I
an
mean, I'm
hourly
not good at
basis.
that. I try to be.
You're not alone with that one.
We're just gonna.
That's good, Jerry.
I stay informed and educated.
So does anybody want to be
I
chair?
have no interest in it.
No interest in chair.
I couldn't do chair. I don't think I could do chair. If Jerry doesn't wanna do vice chair,
No, I'm just putting it out there. If
Yeah, yeah.
somebody has a desire, I'm willing to yield.
And I don't know if I.
This is them staying busy. This is,
No, I just don't think I would be a
Us.
good chair. I don't think Linda, I don't know whether you wanna do it or not, but you run a great meeting and you keep this group focused and moving.
You do.
You really do. I'm not just trying to, it's,
this is what, your third now?
I
You
know,
chair
that's
of
my only,
the charter review, chair of the library,
I stepped, the library trustees, I stepped down. I said, I don't want to be, I'd been chair for 4 years.
Oh,
I said, time for someone else to pony up to the table.
who's chairing that now?
Bernadette Waystack.
Oh, good choice.
So-
That might have been why she was at the meeting last night.
Yep.
Yeah. I know who she is.
So, yes, and she's been chair for the past 3 years for the Cultural Council. So she is stepping off that.
Well, I
Do we
would
need
make a
slate-
motion, I would
motion
make,
to keep
Yes,
the
we do.
slate?
I would make a motion that Karen accept and take.
Be nominated for,
Nominated,
second, oh, sorry, finish it.
for what, the clerk's job?
the clerk's job, and the other positions stay as they are.
So the motion is the chair will be Linda Sabula, the vice chair will be Jerry Beltis, and the clerk will be Karen Murata.
Second. Aaron.
Aaron couldn't wait to say that.
You and I
Now, Aram gets the second on that one.
Yes, he does.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Good. Anything else to come before this committee?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I don't want to belabor this. Do you want an update on the Safe Routes to School, of which I'm doing outreach right now?
Sure, I would, yeah, safe
Was-
routes.
I mentioned to you, I thought I read a legal that was going before the Cape Cod Commission. Was that in fact not?
I am unaware if there is any.
If you could reach out to Colleen, just,
I've had no interaction with the Cape Cod Commission on this project,
okay,
none.
okay.
So, all of this thing's been going on since 2018. The applicant was the school. That principal that applied for it's gone. We had a town engineer once upon a time who's gonna take care of this, gone. So the town's responsibility is to secure the right-of-way, which has fallen on my plate. I'm in that process. It is mind-boggling the amount of work that the Federal Highway Administration dictates because there's federal money in here. The right-of-way, I have sent out 2 weeks ago a certified mailing to all, I'm gonna guess 30 abutters. There's like 45, but some are town, you don't have to do it with town. A certified mailing, we engaged an appraisal company to the tune of 31,000, 34,000, something like that, to do all these appraisals. I'm in the process of following up to my certified mailing, calling all the abutters, seeing if they have any questions. The consultant or the design engineer on the job works for Mass DOT. So I have found a problem when I am meeting with people, hey, can this go here? Can that fixture stay? Can that go? I have to go through DOT, the project manager at DOT, who then has to go to the engineer to see if that's plausible or not. So it's less than seamless, not as seamless as some of my other projects have been. But I'm in the process of making the calls. After that, the next thing that should happen would probably be August, an offer letter mailed by me based upon the appraised value of those temporary easements, mailed out to the people. They accept, then a third letter from me would contain a check. Advertised date is currently December sometime. Construction might begin spring of '26. Present value went from 2.3 to 3.1. The new office estimate, $3.1 million to R&R, a little over a mile of sidewalk. It's almost mind-boggling.
It is.
Sidewalks are expensive. The project from town to the harbor was what cost?
2.3, 2.5, something like that.
So when somebody in town asks for a
That was-
sidewalk,
3,300 feet of sidewalk, that's less than a mile.
yeah,
Less
so
than a
your old estimate of $1
A
million a
million a
mile.
mile is out the window. Yes, sir.
So if somebody wants a sidewalk,
It's more like 2 million a mile.
Well, this is DOT standards. Town doesn't have to engineer stuff to DOT standards. In this instance, the town's financial obligation will probably be less than 200 grand, of which I have recommended utilizing Chapter 90 money to pay for the appraisals and for the awards. I estimated the awards to be somewhere in the 100,000 range, low hundreds, most likely. I chose not to ask for donations because the Federal Highway Administration changed the donation form to now require a lender's signature. And for those who have mortgages and you pay Cape Cod 5, that's not the lender, that's the processor. Though, good luck hunting down the actual lender who holds the paper.
Who actually holds
So
it.
if I got to yes with you, Madam Chair, that, yeah, I'll donate my property. Oh, by the way, could you hunt down your lender and get a signature? It's just cleaner and easier, just say, we'll just do the appraisals.
And I
First
think-
for me.
And I think that over the past many years, I think we've all seen mortgages that were at our little bank and then got sold, and now we are in somewhere mortgage conglomerate.
Right.
They've got mines
You
got
have
sold a few
no
times,
idea
yeah.
where they are,
Right.
and
Good luck with that. So
good luck
then
with that.
I chose not to bite off going after donations as I have on every other project I've ever done. Been very successful at that, not permanent, I'm talking temporary
Yeah.
easements. Most taxpayers and abutters have been willing to donate what needs to be to get the project done. In this instance, this is an entirely different animal requiring a lender's signature, and I just thought that was not a good look. So we're just gonna pay people,
The times are changing.
yes, sir,
All
plus the
right.
property value.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. I have to go
Yes.
take my dog to the vet.
All right, so motion to
Thank you,
approve?
Linda.
Motion to approve, to
Adjourn,
in the
yes.
meeting adjourn. Jerry,
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
let's go.
It's 11:33.
All right,
Thank you.
Okay.
Run,
great.
Lynn.